The night sky over Cairo was a tapestry of stars, flickering like ancient whispers. Samira al-Tahir, a molecular biologist turned amateur historian, leaned over her cluttered desk in a modest apartment filled with papyrus scrolls and genetic sequencing equipment. A strange artifact lay in front of her, a shard of polished black stone, engraved with hieroglyphs that glowed faintly in the dim light. Samira hadn't planned on becoming obsessed with the past. She had been working on decoding a genetic anomaly present in certain modern Egyptian families when a peculiar pattern emerged in her data. The DNA sequences seemed deliberate, engineered. At first, she thought it was contamination or coincidence, but the pattern was too precise. It led her to search ancient texts for clues, and that's when she found the stone. The shard had arrived anonymously a week ago, wrapped in a cloth bearing the emblem of Khepri, the scarab god of rebirth and transformation. Alongside it had been a note written in elegant Arabic: "The answers lie where the light rises." Samira's research had consumed her ever since. She pieced together scraps of history, legends of Khepri, and enigmatic references to the Children of the Dawn. Tonight, she was close to a breakthrough, or, at least, she felt the weight of something monumental pressing on her. As she ran another analysis on the genetic sequences, her computer emitted a sharp beep. The screen flashed with results that made her heart race. The DNA patterns matched symbols on the shard. But more than that, they contained a secondary sequence, dormant and inactive, unlike anything found in human DNA. It was as if the genes were waiting for a trigger. The power in her apartment flickered, and then the room fell into darkness. Before Samira could react, a golden light erupted from the shard. The hieroglyphs on its surface began to shift and reconfigure themselves, forming new symbols. One of them projected into the air, a glowing scarab with a pulsating heart at its center. A low hum filled the room, and Samira's chest tightened. It wasn't just sound, it was a frequency, resonating deep within her. She clutched her chest as a sudden wave of dizziness overtook her. She stumbled, collapsing to the floor, her vision blurring. When she awoke, she was no longer alone. Standing in the corner of the room was a man cloaked in dark robes, his face obscured. The golden light from the shard reflected in his eyes, which seemed far too ancient for his youthful appearance. "You've begun to unlock the truth," he said, his voice calm yet commanding. "You carry the seed of the children." Samira struggled to sit up. "Who are you? What do you mean?" "I am a keeper, sworn to protect the legacy of Khepri. You are one of the chosen. The bloodline has survived through you, and others like you. The time has come for your genes to awaken." Samira stared at him, her mind racing. Awaken? For what? He gestured toward the shard, now floating midair. "To prepare for their return. The ones who seeded this world with their essence will come back. But they will not find us as they left us. The Children of Khepri were engineered to be their equals." The room shook, a low rumble emanating from beneath the city. Samira could hear distant sirens and shouts. The keeper smiled faintly. "The awakening has begun." Samira's hands trembled as she stared at the glowing shard. The world she thought she knew was unraveling. She wasn't just uncovering history, she was living it. And whatever came next, she would have to decide whether to embrace or resist the destiny etched into her very DNA. As the light from the shard pulsed like a heartbeat, Samira knew her life, and the world, would never be the same. Samira pushed herself to her feet, her legs trembling under the weight of what she'd just heard. The keeper's calm presence only added to the surreality of the moment. "I don't understand," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "If this awakening is happening, what does it mean? What will it do to me? To others?" The keeper's gaze didn't waver. "The genes within you, dormant for centuries, will begin to activate. You will feel changes, physical, mental, even spiritual. Your senses will sharpen. Your strength will grow. But most importantly, you will begin to connect with others like you. Together, you will form the foundation for what is to come." Samira backed away, her pulse racing. "You're talking like this is some kind of evolution. What if I don't want this? What if I don't want to be part of this plan?" The keeper's expression softened. It is not a matter of want. The awakening is already underway. You've felt it, haven't you? The pull, the resonance in your chest? That is the signal calling to the children. The question is not whether you can escape it. The question is what you will do with it. Before Samira could respond, her computer screen lit up, startling her. The data from her analysis was no longer a series of incomprehensible sequences. Instead, it had rearranged itself into a map, an intricate diagram with glowing markers spread across Egypt, the Middle East, and beyond. "What is this?" she asked, moving closer to the screen. The map pulsed, each marker flickering in time with the shard's golden light. "These are the others," the keeper said, stepping closer. "The Children of Khepri. Each one carries the same dormant genes as you, and each one will soon face the same choice." Samira stared at the map. Choice? To embrace their role in what is to come, or to turn away and risk being consumed by the awakening, the keeper replied. His tone darkened. But there are those who would see the awakening stopped. Forces that fear what the children could become. They will try to find you, and the others, before you are ready. Samira's heart sank. "You're saying we're in danger?" He nodded. "There are those who believe humanity should remain as it is, unaltered and unprepared for the return of the ancestors. They will do whatever it takes to silence the children." Samira felt a chill run down her spine. She turned back to the shard, now pulsating steadily. "And the ancestors, what do they want? Why are they coming back?" The keeper hesitated, his expression unreadable. "That is a truth you must uncover for yourself. But know this, they left us not as conquerors, but as creators. They entrusted humanity with their essence, believing we could one day stand beside them as equals. Whether they return as allies or adversaries depends on how we prepare." A sudden, deafening roar echoed from outside, shaking the apartment. Samira ran to the window and pulled back the curtain. A black helicopter hovered above the street, its spotlight fixed on her building. Below, armed figures in tactical gear emerged from unmarked vehicles, moving with precision toward the entrance. "They've found you," the keeper said, his voice urgent. "You must leave. Now." Panic surged through Samira. "How? Where am I supposed to go?" The keeper extended his hand, and the shard floated into her grasp. "Trust the shard. It will guide you. Find the others. Together, you will uncover the truth and decide the fate of humanity." Before she could protest, the keeper stepped back into the shadows, his form dissolving into the air as though he had never been there. The door to her apartment rattled, the sound of boots pounding up the stairs growing louder. Clutching the shard, Samira felt a warmth spread through her palm, followed by a quiet voice in her mind. "Run." She grabbed her bag, stuffing it with her laptop and a few essentials. With a final glance at the glowing map on her screen, she bolted out the back door and into the chaotic streets of Cairo. The city's labyrinthine alleys and bustling crowds swallowed her whole, the shard's light pulsing faintly in her hand as though it were leading her somewhere. The hunt had begun, and Samira was no longer just a scientist or a historian. She was a child of Khepri, and the first step in her journey to uncover humanity's ancient legacy had been taken. The streets of Cairo were alive with chaos, motorbikes weaving through traffic, vendors shouting over the din, and the pungent scent of spices mingling with exhaust. Samira slipped into the crowd, keeping her head down and her hand tightly clenched around the shard. Its faint warmth pulsed in rhythm with her racing heart, guiding her with gentle tugs that she couldn't explain. Behind her, the unmistakable sound of boots and commands in clipped Arabic echoed above the noise. The tactical team was methodical, sweeping the streets with precision, their dark uniforms blending into the shadows of the buildings. Samira ducked into a narrow alley lined with hanging laundry and stray cats. She could feel the shard's pull growing stronger, almost insistent. It led her toward an old, weathered door tucked between two crumbling stone walls. The door seemed ordinary, but as she approached, symbols began to appear on its surface, glowing faintly with the same golden light as the shard. She hesitated, glancing over her shoulder. The soldiers were close. Taking a deep breath, she pressed the shard against the door. There was a soft click, followed by a rush of air as the door swung inward. Without thinking, she slipped inside and closed it behind her. Darkness enveloped her, broken only by the shard's glow. She took a step forward, her breath catching as lights flickered to life, revealing a cavernous space. The room was unlike anything Samira had ever seen. The walls were lined with intricate carvings depicting scenes from ancient Egyptian life, but with a surreal twist. Figures with elongated limbs and glowing eyes worked alongside humans, building structures that looked eerily similar to modern technology. Hovering above them were large scarab-like ships, their surfaces shimmering with a metallic sheen. In the center of the room stood a large, circular table made of black stone, its surface engraved with symbols that matched those on the shard. Around the table were several high-backed chairs, each adorned with a different sigil. One of them was glowing faintly. Samira approached cautiously, her fingers tracing the edge of the table. The shard in her hand pulsed once more, and the glowing chair emitted a soft hum. A compartment on the table opened, revealing a small, circular device. She picked it up, and the room came alive. Holographic images projected from the walls and ceiling, showing maps, constellations, and a series of rapidly changing symbols. A voice, calm and melodic, spoke in ancient Egyptian. Samira frowned. "I don't understand." The shard warmed in her hand, and the voice shifted, translating itself into modern Arabic. "Welcome, Child of Khepri. The first step has been taken. You are in the sanctum of awakening, a place hidden from those who would destroy our legacy. Here, you will find answers. But you must act quickly. Their forces are relentless." The hologram shifted, displaying images of others, men, women, and children from across the globe. Some looked confused, others resolute. All of them had one thing in common, the faint glow of a shard in their hands. "These are the others," Samira whispered. The shard vibrated in confirmation. Before she could process what she was seeing, the sound of an explosion shook the ground. Dust rained down from the ceiling, and the door she had entered began to splinter. The tactical team had found her. The holographic voice continued, unperturbed. "You must activate the gateway. The others will be drawn to it. Together, you will awaken the dormant genes and prepare for the return." "What gateway?" Samira demanded, but the voice offered no further instructions. The shard in her hand grew hotter, pulling her toward a section of the wall. She pressed her palm against it, and the stone melted away to reveal a glowing portal, swirling with golden light. The door behind her gave way, and shouts filled the air. Samira turned, her heart pounding. The soldiers were pouring into the sanctum, their weapons raised. With no other choice, she stepped into the portal. The sensation was unlike anything Samira had ever experienced. It felt as though she were being pulled apart and reassembled at the same time, her body dissolving into light before reforming in a new space. When she emerged, she found herself in a vast chamber that defied explanation. The walls seemed to stretch infinitely, adorned with symbols and carvings that glowed faintly. In the center of the room stood a massive obelisk, its surface covered in hieroglyphs that pulsed in rhythm with her shard. Around it, faint figures began to materialize, other children of Khepri, drawn to the same beacon. Samira looked down at her hand, where the shard was now embedded in her palm, its light flowing through her veins. She wasn't alone anymore. The others stared at her with the same mix of fear and determination that she felt. A deep, resonant voice filled the chamber. It wasn't the melodic tone of the sanctum, but something far older, far more powerful. "Children of Khepri, the time has come. The stars align, and the ancestors prepare to return. Will you rise to meet them, or let the legacy of humanity be lost to the sands of time?" The obelisk flared with light, and Samira knew there was no turning back. Whatever lay ahead, she would face it, with the others by her side. The awakening had only just begun. The chamber pulsed with energy, the obelisk at its center radiating waves of golden light that danced across the faces of those gathered. Samira's heart pounded as she scanned the room. The others, there were 12 of them, including her, stood at equal distances around the obelisk. Their expressions ranged from awe to terror, each one clutching a shard similar to hers. Before anyone could speak, the obelisk's carving shifted, the hieroglyphs flowing like liquid into new configurations. The deep, resonant voice echoed again, but now it seemed to come from the obelisk itself. You are the chosen, the inheritors of the ancestors' design. Each of you carries a piece of the whole. Together, you must unlock the truth of your creation and prepare for their arrival. Samira felt a vibration in her palm as the shard embedded there responded to the obelisk's energy. Her body tingled, and a faint hum filled her ears. A wave of clarity washed over her, and she suddenly understood. These weren't just random strangers. Each person here was connected to her through the genetic code they shared, a legacy passed down through generations. One of the others, a tall man with sharp features and piercing eyes, stepped forward. What does that mean? What are we supposed to do? His voice was steady, but his knuckles whitened as he gripped his shard. The obelisk's light dimmed momentarily, then flared again, projecting an intricate map into the air. The map depicted Earth, but not as it appeared now. Instead, it showed ancient land masses, long-sunken continents, and glowing markers at specific locations. The markers represent sanctuaries hidden across the Earth, the voice explained. Each sanctuary holds a fragment of the key, a device designed to activate the awakening fully. Only when all fragments are assembled can you unlock the ancestors' message. Another figure spoke up, a young woman with a streak of silver in her dark hair. And what if we don't? What if we refuse to play along with whatever this is? The obelisk's light flickered ominously. Then humanity remains unprepared. The ancestors will return to find their creation fractured, divided, and vulnerable. And you, the children of Khepri, will face the consequences of that failure. The room fell silent. Samira's mind raced. She had spent her life seeking answers, piecing together fragments of history and genetics that didn't fit conventional narratives. And now she was here, at the center of a mystery far greater than she had ever imagined. She cleared her throat. If these sanctuaries hold fragments of the key, how are we supposed to find them? The map shows places that don't even exist anymore. The obelisk's light focused on her, as if acknowledging her question. The shards you carry are more than relics. They're guides. Together, they will reveal the locations of the sanctuaries and the means to access them. But beware, forces opposed to your awakening are already moving. They will stop at nothing to destroy the shards and those who carry them. The tall man scoffed.
Great.
So we're on a scavenger hunt, and there's a death squad after us. Fantastic. Before anyone could respond, the obelisk emitted a low hum, and the glowing map fragmented into smaller projections, each one aligning itself with a shard. Samira's shard vibrated, and she instinctively turned her gaze to the projection hovering before her. It showed a remote location in the Sahara Desert, marked by an ancient symbol of the scarab. The voice spoke again. Each of you has been chosen to seek a fragment. Your shards will guide you. Trust them and trust each other. You are stronger together than apart. The projections faded, and the room fell into a tense silence. The obelisk's light dimmed, leaving only the faint glow of the shards in each of their hands. Samira turned to face the others. If we're going to do this, we can't waste time. We need to figure out who's after us and why, and how to stay ahead of them. The tall man crossed his arms. And who put you in charge? Enough, the silver-haired woman interjected. We don't have to like each other, but we need to work together. If what the obelisk says is true, the stakes are too high to argue. Reluctantly, the group nodded. The shards in their hands pulsed faintly, as if urging them forward. Samira felt the pull again, guiding her toward the obelisk. She touched its surface, and a compartment slid open, revealing a small, metallic device shaped like a scarab. The moment she picked it up, a flood of information surged into her mind, a map of her destination, ancient instructions, and warnings about the challenges ahead. As the others retrieved similar devices, the obelisk's voice spoke one last time. Go now. Children of Khepri. The future of humanity lies in your hands. The room began to tremble, the walls shimmering as the chamber started to collapse. The portal they had entered reappeared, swirling with golden light. Samira glanced at the others, her resolve hardening. "Let's move," she shouted, leading the charge back through the portal. On the other side, they emerged into the cool night air, the stars blazing above them. But the tranquility was short-lived. The roar of engines and the beam of searchlights cut through the darkness. The enemy had found them. Samira tightened her grip on the shard, her mind already racing with plans. The awakening was only beginning, and their journey to uncover the sanctuaries and the truth would be fraught with danger. But as she looked at the faces of her newfound companions, she knew one thing for certain. They were not alone. And together, they would face whatever came next. The desert air was cool, but tension crackled like a live wire. Samira and the others had barely escaped the crumbling chamber when the roar of engines grew louder. Black SUVs with tinted windows tore across the sands, their headlights piercing the night. Drones buzzed in the air, their red lights scanning the ground. Samira's shard pulsed hot in her palm, an urgent reminder that time was running out. "Move," she shouted, pointing to a cluster of rocky outcroppings ahead. The group sprinted, their footfalls muffled by the sand. Adrenaline coursed through Samira's veins, drowning out the ache in her legs. As they reached the rocks, the tall man, who had yet to share his name, glanced back. "We can't outrun them forever. What's your plan?" Samira crouched behind a boulder, catching her breath. "The shard, it's guiding me. There's something nearby, something we can use." The silver-haired woman, who had introduced herself as Layla, raised an eyebrow. "You're betting our lives on a glowing rock? Do you have a better idea?" Samira shot back. Before Layla could answer, a loud whump echoed through the air. A flash of light illuminated the sand, and one of the drones spiraled out of the sky, a trail of smoke behind it. The group turned to see a young man holding a strange, handheld device that looked cobbled together from scraps of metal and wiring. He grinned sheepishly. "Name's Tariq," he said. "Figured we could use a little help." Samira blinked. "Where did you even get that?" Tariq shrugged. "Built it. Shard gave me the design. Don't ask me how, I just knew." The tall man smirked. "Well, looks like we've got our own genius. Let's hope your toy can handle what's coming next." A shout rang out, followed by the sharp crack of gunfire. Bullets ricocheted off the rocks, sending shards of stone flying. The group pressed themselves against the outcropping, panic rising. "We can't stay here," Layla shouted. "They'll pick us off." Samira's shard pulsed again, the heat now almost unbearable. She closed her eyes, focusing on the sensation. A vision filled her mind, a hidden passage beneath the rocks, concealed by an illusion. "There's a way out," she said, scrambling to her feet. "Follow me." The group hesitated, but the urgency in her voice propelled them forward. Samira led them around the rocks, her shard glowing brighter with each step. She stopped in front of a seemingly solid wall of stone. "Here," she said, pressing her hand against it. The shard flared, and the rock shimmered before dissolving into a swirling, golden portal. "You've got to be kidding me," the tall man muttered. "No time for doubts," Samira said, stepping through. One by one, the group followed, their surroundings shifting as they passed through the portal. They emerged in a dimly lit cavern, the air cool and damp. The walls glowed faintly with bioluminescent moss, casting eerie shadows. "What is this place?" Layla whispered, her voice reverent. "The shard brought us here," Samira said, scanning the cavern. "It's another sanctuary." The cavern was massive, with a central dais surrounded by intricate carvings and ancient tools. In the middle of the dais stood a pedestal, upon which rested a small, ornate box etched with scarab designs. Samira's shard pulsed, drawing her toward it. As she reached for the box, a low growl echoed through the chamber. The group froze. From the shadows emerged a creature unlike anything they had seen. Its body was sleek and insectoid, its many legs clicking against the stone. Its eyes glowed with the same golden light as the shard, but there was nothing friendly about its stance. "What the hell is that?" Tarek asked, raising his makeshift weapon. "The Guardian," Samira whispered. She stepped back, her heart pounding. "It's protecting the fragment." The creature let out a screech, its mandibles clicking as it charged. The group scattered, narrowly avoiding its sweeping claws. Tarek fired his device, sending a bolt of energy toward the creature. It struck, but the beast barely flinched. "Any ideas?" the tall man shouted, dodging another attack. Samira's mind raced. The shard's pulsing grew stronger, and she realized it wasn't just a warning, it was a signal. The Guardian wasn't their enemy, it was testing them. "Don't attack it," she yelled. "It's not here to kill us. It's here to see if we're worthy." Layla glanced at her. "And how do we prove that?" Samira held up her shard, letting its light shine. "Follow my lead." She stepped forward, her heart in her throat. The Guardian paused, its glowing eyes fixed on her. Slowly, Samira knelt, holding her shard toward the creature. The others hesitated, then followed suit, raising their shards in unison. The Guardian tilted its head, emitting a low, rumbling sound. Then, to their astonishment, it retreated, curling into a dormant position near the dais. Samira rose, her legs trembling. She approached the pedestal and lifted the box. As she did, a voice filled the chamber, deep and resonant, like the obelisks. "The first fragment is yours. The path will grow more perilous, but you are not alone. Trust in each other, and you will prevail." The box clicked open, revealing a small, metallic fragment that shimmered with a strange energy. Samira picked it up, feeling a surge of power course through her. "This is just the beginning," she said, turning to the others. "We have a long way to go." Behind them, the portal reopened, and the cavern began to tremble. The group exchanged nervous glances before stepping through, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Their journey was far from over, but for the first time, Samira felt a spark of hope. Together, they would uncover the truth of their legacy and prepare for the return of the ancestors.